Good everyone. I hope you guys having an amazing day. Welcome to another episode of ANZ Salesforce podcast. So today I have with me special guest Amber Joseph, who is a Salesforce trainer. She's been in Salesforce space for a long time. She runs Salesforce Training.co.nz company. So welcome to my show, Amber.
Thank you so much. Yeah, really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So this is going to be a casual chat. So we're going to talk about, things, around the Salesforce space. So how's your day been before we even start the real stuff?
Oh, it's been good. It's been good today. Yeah, just met up with some students, wrote some blogs, filmed some tutorials. It's a pretty standard trainer day, I guess. But it's been good. Yeah.
Oh, that's
lovely.
fantastic. So can you tell me something about your company, Salesforce Training? I do understand that, you do a lot of training content around admin, platform developer. So would you like to talk about a bit on that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So originally, the whole kind of company just started with me contracting. I was actually teaching end users, so going around and helping companies who had already implemented Salesforce, and then needed to train up their team. There wasn't really a whole lot of people in that space, of end user training. And so that's where I started just by myself. And I thought I better have a website for this. So
Right.
I looked up the domain Salesforce training, and I couldn't believe that it was available. Even with the .co.nz, I thought it was an awesome find. So yeah, I brought that, and then I just started putting up blogs. And I started getting a lot of traction through that. People would email me and reach out through the website, and ask not just for end user training, but a lot for certification and just help with getting started in Salesforce. So the company kind of evolved pretty naturally from there, just based on demand, until we got to where we are today, which is teaching certifications, running end user training, and placing people in a lot of them their first Salesforce jobs, which is great.
Fantastic. I'm pretty sure, listeners will be excited to hear what you just said, placing people in different Salesforce jobs, because, that's the end game, right? For people, to learn Salesforce, to get their first break, which is fantastic. Now, you've been training on Salesforce space. Now, I just wanted to ask you a simple question, right? The things which you like the most around training in Salesforce, anything which you say, oh, this is the thing I love the most. Salesforce is a huge space, but
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I think it's really the moments that I have, like with students, where they have a light bulb moment where they just understand what Salesforce is. A lot of them come in, they're drawn in by the hype, or they've got friends or co-workers or people who have recommended Salesforce to them, but they don't really have an understanding of what it is, or in fact how big it is. And so there's always a moment where that kind of clicks for people. For example, today I just got off a call before this with a student, and he had that moment, and he said it's like everything was very cloudy in my mind about Salesforce, and now it's like the clouds have gone and it's a beautiful clear day. And I was like,
right.
oh, that's just music to my ears. I love that so much. Because it means that they're really getting it. They're understanding what this means for them in terms of new opportunities, new career. So yeah, that's
Right.
probably one of my favorite moments in training. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's good to know. Yeah. So, like I said, right, Salesforce is a big space, right? A lot of things to, learn. So that definitely brings up some challenges, right? Especially around the training space. So have you experienced any specific challenge you think, oh, it's too difficult for, this topic, for this topic to train, or it's too difficult for the, someone to understand it? Like, I'll give you my example, right? When I started Salesforce, I struggled, especially around the business context, because I came from a
Mm.
technical background, and I go to Trailhead and they're like, it's not really fun. I'm getting bored. So, have you experienced any such scenario in your training journey, or any
Yeah,
kind of?
exactly that. Exactly the same scenario. And in fact, we're always changing the course and making it better. And something that we recently added in was a whole section on understanding Salesforce from the business and sales side. because
Right.
just like you, we get quite a few people coming in from a technology background, which is fantastic. They've got a great understanding of objects and fields.
Yeah.
But when it comes to actually understanding what Salesforce does and why is it useful and how do people use it, it's a huge learning, and it's a big gap that I think, like you said, it's missed in Trailhead. As fantastic as Trailhead is, it doesn't
Yeah.
give you that end user perspective. So, yeah, students typically they'll fall into two brackets: technology, or they've come from being an end user of Salesforce. And the
Right.
challenge that I face a lot of the time is getting them both on the same page. The technology team, they need to learn about it from an end user point of view, and the end user team need to learn a bit more about the technology side.
Yeah, that's right. That's because the way I look at it, right? Because in Salesforce, we normally talk about functional consultants and Salesforce technical consultants. So the way I look at it, the functional consultants are the storytellers, right? They tell the story, and the technical consultants are the one who implement that story, right? So that's the
Yeah.
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 Now you mentioned about the Trailhead, right? So I just wanted to drill a little bit more on the Trailhead. What's your general perception about Trailhead? Do you think is that the best place for someone to start? I mean, I do know that Salesforce says Trailhead is the best place to start, but personally, right? I mean, it's like
Yeah, no.
where to start, right? That's the question always people ask, right? It's humongous.
Yeah, it is humongous. And I think yeah, that is for a lot of people, that's the hardest part. And that's why a lot of people end up coming to us. Probably half, even more, typically of our cohorts have already tried Trailhead. And they're coming to us after that because they're just not too sure where to begin. So I think Trailhead is fantastic. I love the fact that, you can go in there and you can check if what you're doing, is correct. And I say correct in quotes because
Yeah,
often it depends on the scenario, but it does have its limitations. And I think that two of the biggest limitations with Trailhead is starting.
yeah,
Where do you start? It's very, very overwhelming. There's so much, huge amount of topics on there. And then the second one is that it can almost lead you into a bit of a trailhead trance where you just
yeah.
start following the steps without really taking in anything. So I think those are probably the two things just to watch out with Trailhead.
Yeah, that's very, very well said, because I'll be honest with you, right? I'm pretty behind with badges and kind of things because I believe in implementing the stuff, in real time. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I really don't run around the numbers, but I do understand, right? I appreciate the fact they made it like kind of a game where people get motivated. Oh, I wanted to take more badge. You'll get the ranger level. You get different levels, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's good for a bit of healthy competition. I mean, we definitely run a few competitions in the course around badges, but where it's probably less than a quarter, or even between a quarter and a third maybe of what we do in terms of actually understanding Salesforce and doing Salesforce. We use it as a bit of a starting platform, but very quickly we're trying to take those Trailhead trainer wheels off
Yeah,
and push people to think outside of Trailhead, and take the concepts that they learn, and then apply them to an actual scenario where you don't know the answer. That's one of the things that a lot of our students say when they first try something that's not Trailhead.
yeah.
They say, how do I know if I've got it right? And it's like you go in there and you've got to test it. You've got to act as the user and give it a go for yourself. And it's actually a huge learning for a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with you, right? I mean, I personally believe trainers plays a very important role, right? Because they actually make someone understand, like to give that comfort zone, right? Because, if I have to start something new, right? I mean, I wish someone is there, who can tell me, okay, where to start and where to, because, it's too much. So yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate the fact that you're really doing an amazing job, and
Oh,
especially in the
thank you
news.
so much.
Um, so so that comes to my next question, right? Now, obviously, we are a small country, right? We have a lot of talented people, And you were one of them. You were doing a training. I do here and there YouTube stuff, right? But people might get bored of that, technical jargons I use. But so, do you think New Zealand can play a bigger role in terms of Salesforce training at global scale?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really think that we can. I mean, we get quite a bit of interest from overseas, from the randomest places, France, the Netherlands. We've had students from all over the place. Um, and I think that there is huge potential to take this beyond New Zealand. If all the training that we do, 90% of it is virtual, and done online. And I think that that's the way that it is, and that's the way that a lot of it is going to continue to be. So I think that New Zealand does have a unique way of presenting it as well. Culturally, we actually stand out a lot from a lot of the US style training, which can be very, very, in your face and not as friendly or as personable, or a bit too much like a sales pitch almost. And so, we get a lot of people who respond really positively to how we teach. It's a slightly different style. And I think that it would be great to see more of that style spread out throughout the world.
Yeah, that's very, very well said, right? I hope our American friends listening to us today won't get intimidated, because I do know that New Zealand style is the best, but right.
No, I think not many to bag on any US style teaching. I think they do a fantastic job. But the world's a big place, right? Everyone responds differently to different things. So the more diverse we can get out there in terms of different styles of communication and getting the same message across, I think that it's great to have a variety of sources to choose from.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with that. Now, you might have seen, right, the massive demands for Salesforce jobs in New Zealand market, right? It's getting crazy, right? I mean, personally, right, I'm getting like calls like 2-3 times a day. Oh, would you be keen? Would you be keen, right? So, what's your thought regarding this certain surge, right, in the Salesforce market? I haven't seen personally any of the technology even coming closer to Salesforce, right, in terms of demands.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a huge surge going on with Salesforce demand, especially in New Zealand. It's just really taking off. That being said, I do feel like there needs to be a bigger push or a bigger acceptance in the New Zealand market for incoming junior talent. It's something that when I started, I kind of probably very naively, I assumed that everyone would want junior talent because everyone's so desperate for Salesforce people. But that's definitely not the case. And I think that as a Salesforce kind of community in New Zealand, we've got to accept that for us to grow more talent and get more of these amazing architects and high level engineers and designers and things in Salesforce, we have to be fostering this junior talent. It's got to start from somewhere. And so I think that we're slowly starting to realize that. But it just comes with the growth of the community. Like, we have a lot of amazing small boutique consultants who, they can't afford to take on juniors in the beginning. And so as we develop and mature more as an entire ecosystem in Salesforce, I'm really looking forward to people having the capacity to bring on more juniors, because I think that's really where it's going to take off.
Yeah, I do agree with that, because this is a very important point you raised, right? I mean, I do remember that I raised this one of the topic, right, where, I mentioned that instead of bringing, I mean, I did got a lot of pushback for that when I said, instead of bringing someone from overseas, right, let's train, within New Zealand, right? We got a lot of talented people, say we can go, Salesforce should be going to universities, right? Victoria, Massey, Auckland, wherever, right? To foster that talent, and this will be good for our economy, and more people will be excited, right, to be part of this ecosystem. So,
absolutely, and it's a win-win as well. I mean, the more talent that we can get pushing up through kind of more advanced levels in Salesforce here, the more capacity we'd have to bring in other overseas talents as well and really nurture them and get them going. But I think that in terms of growing the Salesforce ecosystem, and that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to be this force, this push to to get things started. And it can be tough, when you're pushing from the bottom.
Yeah,
But you've got to start somewhere. So yeah, I'm excited to see that grow.
that's fantastic. Now, coming to my last question about the Salesforce certification. I know that it's a market where everyone wants to get certified, right? So, according to your experience, do you think it's really important for someone to get certified, or say to get
Um,
the yeah,
yeah, it's a really good question. I do think that there is, a lot of value in getting certified. I think that
yeah,
it shows that you've passed almost a certain struggle.
yeah,
You're stuck in there long enough to get the certification, because they're not always easy, especially
yeah,
if you're not working in Salesforce, if you're really doing this from scratch. So I think that there definitely is a lot of value in getting certified. That being said, getting a certification is not always a guaranteed job.
right,
You have to really work on your other skills as well that go along with the certification. A lot of it, quite frankly, is just confidence.
yeah,
If you're changing careers, starting in a new industry, you've got your certification, but you're not confident to talk about your skills with Salesforce, then it's going to be quite difficult to get that job. So I do think the certification is worth it, but I don't think that it's the 100% guarantee to getting your job. There's definitely more skills that go along with that package.
yeah. That's right. I mean, especially if you're, say, for instance, if you wanted to work for a consulting firm, they expect you
Mm,
to have some kind of, consulting, experience, in the sense like, things which you should know being a consultant, right, along with the Salesforce knowledge. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I do know that you have a YouTube channel, right?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Yeah, so I think people who wanted to uh, join your training, they can have a look at the YouTube channel to see the way you teach. So that will give them, an idea about your training stuff, right? So this is like an
Yeah,
opportunity for them to,
absolutely. So we have our YouTube channel, which the style of our YouTube videos is very like short, snappy exam reminders. So if you're in the middle of studying for your exam, then I'd really recommend you to, take full use of those videos. There's hundreds there. Um, if you're really starting out with Salesforce, we run monthly Salesforce for Newbie courses. So if you're completely new to Salesforce, you don't know what it is or what's involved, but you're thinking about it as, potentially something that you could be interested in, then I'd recommend that you start with that, that intro courses. It's completely free, and it's just designed to get you aware of what Salesforce is and perhaps how your skills might fit in.
that's fantastic. I'll put the link in the description below for users, listeners for today. So that's great. That's fantastic, Amber. I really appreciate your time today. So I hope people will be more excited to learn from you, and hopefully more users will be reaching out to you after this podcast.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I
You're
really appreciate it. It's been a blast.
you're welcome. Have a great day.
All right, thanks, Vic.